Understanding what special needs are, raising a special needs child, and caring for children with special needs is what we have sought to highlight in this three-part series. We share the final episode on caring for special needs children with the founder of the Johari Foundation, Jemima Muthama, and her panel next.
Let's continue with the conversation on diet, Roseanne. The doctors talked about the glycemic index. I'd like you to help us walk through that and understand it better, as well as the diet for our children with special needs.
Right. So glycemic index, Sheila, is basically how much your sugar levels are going to rise after having a meal. And typically, they will rise up significantly if a certain food has a higher glycemic index based on what the American Food Federation has determined. If you have processed foods or refined flours, typically those will rise up your glycemic index, your sugar levels. And that's why the doctor talked about kids being, if they have direct sugar, they become hyperactive. And it's just not even special needs kids. I mean, even I or you or even our kids, if they have sugars or foods that tend to be highly refined, you will have that spike up in your sugar levels. You're all excited, you're all hyper. And then before you know it, you have what's called a drop. And that drop brings you down. You become either lethargic, you become tired, you become cranky, you become depressed. So everyone exhibits that symptoms very differently. And so for kids with special needs, already because their regulation is not normal per se, it is very important for you as a mom or as a parent to determine what foods generally work for your child. And so lower glycemic foods is what we would recommend. Preferably, if we're talking about carbohydrates, for instance, we would look at fruits are generally carbohydrates, and a lot of them will tend to be put on higher fruits, higher fat foods, especially kids also who have seizures, by the way, they tend to have higher protein diets because it's been shown, and we're still not sure why, higher carbohydrates tend to make them have higher seizures. So they'll have foods like so we have sweet potatoes, which are very good carbohydrates. We have our fruits. We have some mangoes over here. We have watermelon. We have zucchini. So all these type of vegetables tend to keep your blood sugars nice and stable without that up and down spike that we do not like. Because once you get that spike up, insulin tends to be released. You end up storing fat. And not just even that, but that hyperactivity is something that we really want to control, especially for kids with special needs.
Tell us a little bit about some of the spices, because the spices and herbs.
Yes.
If I'm going to make pilau, are there certain spices, for instance, chili, does it have an impact? And I can see some have been arranged there. Is it okay to spice up the food?
Absolutely. It's very, very important, by the way, to spice up our foods. And the reason why we brought natural substances over here, or natural spices, there's some foods that it's very important for us to remove from our diet. A lot of them tend to have gluten. Our bodies don't know how to digest that stuff. And so a lot of it ends up not metabolizing well. We end up storing extra fat. And for kids with special needs, they end up being hyperactive. And so what we encourage here is natural spices. We have like rosemary, tarragon. These are natural herbs that we actually find we grow a lot of us in our gardens, right? So those are the kind of spices that we actually encourage moms to use to spice up their foods, because again, we don't want your foods being bland, right? We want our foods to taste good. So we actually do want you to put spices, use natural oils like an olive oil, a little bit expensive, but it's really the best oil for us to use. So you can use something like an olive oil, and then rainbow up your food, make it look pretty, right? So you have different colors. You have the yellows, you have the reds, you have the greens, you have the oranges from your carrots. So make a rainbow. That way when you're eating your foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it all looks nice and beautifully presented here. But that's actually how our bodies want. They want beautiful foods because these all come from the earth, and that's what we actually need to be feeding our kids, and our kids especially with special needs.
And in a way, that's a metaphor for life. Life
Right.
is tasty, life is colorful. And so should it be with the meals and the diet that
Absolutely.
we choose to have.
Absolutely.
But I'd like us to go back to Dr. John and talk about therapy. Because many people don't understand. You know, in talking about our children with special needs, we've looked at diet, but now I'd like to look at the other very crucial aspect of taking care of a child with special needs. Therapy. There are different
Right.
forms of therapy. Walk us through them and help us understand where it is available in Kenya.
Right. Therapy is important from the word go. So a child who is born at risk of developing specific disabilities should be on therapy from day one.
Okay.
Yeah, you give birth to a child with Down syndrome in hospital, you should not leave the hospital before you are connected to an occupational therapist.
All right. And I'm sorry to interrupt. A child born with Down syndrome, you would notice
Yes.
from
at
day
birth.
one, as
Yes.
you've said.
Yeah.
But then there are others that you won't even notice from day one. It will
Right.
take longer.
Yeah.
So walk us through that as well.
Right. So we talk of early intervention. So if a child is found to be having specific needs or is at risk of developing a disability, let's say a child born with clubfoot is at a risk. So if that clubfoot is not corrected, then the child will develop a disability. Or the child who had severe jaundice is likely to develop cerebral palsy or other kinds of brain damage. So that child will need occupational therapy. But if the tone is so bad that the child will not be able to build the muscle tone and general muscles will not be able to develop quite well, then we would refer that child to physiotherapy. But in most cases, from early years, we talk of occupational therapy. So the occupational therapists will help develop the child's muscle coordination, both gross and fine motor skills, for the child to be able to tone up the muscles, to be able to sit, to be able to roll, to hold up the head, to crawl, to be able to walk, and later on to be able to feed himself and the like. The therapist will also work on sensory issues. You know, sometimes these children have problem with processing sensory information that they get from the environment. Let's give an example of touch. So light touch to you might be painful to another person, maybe to a child with specific needs. Or sound, so we can have, like now, the bird singing, the air might be soothing to one person, but it might be heightened to another person. So the occupational therapist would come in with sensory integration to help the person integrate the senses together to improve the general functioning, walking, talking, and the like. And then we also need speech therapy. So the speech therapy will help the child be able to develop language, both spoken language and non-verbal language, to be able to use body language. Speech therapist also helps with chewing and swallowing food to improve the reflexes of the child. In rare occasions, do we refer children for physiotherapy, but we have cases where we refer them for physiotherapy.
The question that I now ask you, Jemima, is knowing what you know about the situation, especially with therapists, what do you plan to do with the Johari Foundation and these therapists who are obviously trained and ready for work, but nobody can find them?
Okay, for us, what we have identified is this body, SCP. It's called Special Education Professionals. So these are trained professionals, both local and volunteers from overseas, who come and work together to support mainly kids from the slums and the rural areas. So together with John, he's going to be able to connect us with these trained professionals so that we can send them out to the schools in the rural areas. As I told you, we are working with Butterfly Center, Vocational Center. We've also identified another school, Kadidhiama Special Units. So these centers deals with kids from the age of 3, 13, 14. And so from here is when they will transition to Butterfly Vocational Center. Sheila, you know, in our country, there's a need for special needs centers and schools. Currently, we only have 5 schools in the whole of Kenya, 3 which are public and 2 are private. So looking at the ratio of school and the number of children that we have, there's really a very big need for us to advocate for schools to be built, centers to be put up, and even trained professionals to be assimilated into these centers and schools so that we can be able to help our children. So with Kadidhiama, there's a very big need of the dining hall. We need to rehabilitate. So what we are planning to do after the fundraising is rehabilitate the dining room, give them an ablution block that will give them toilets and bathrooms, buy for them mattresses. Some of these kids don't have mattresses to sleep on, so we need to give them mattresses with PVC covers so that they mostly tend to have accidents at night and during the day, so that hygienically they are covered, they don't get to suffer from bed sores and all that. We're also planning to buy food. And the other thing that we're planning to do is we have identified children from Kibera, from Kawangware and Madari. Currently, there's 2 siblings in Kawangware who are also orphans. They are in very dire need. They live with their grandmother. These kids are now suffering from bed sores. They have nobody to take them out. The grandmother is old. There's such a big need out there, Sheila, that really, as Kenyans, as human beings, we just need to have that heart and say, if I'm able to buy a packet of unga, why can't I be able to save that 150 and see how put together we can use that to change the lives of these beautiful children that God has given us.
All right. I'm going to give you an opportunity to let us know how we can all tap in and assist, because the dinner is just the beginning of many different functions and initiatives that the Johari Foundation will be putting in place to create awareness and, of course, to fundraise for the children. But I go back to Roseanne, because the question is, we've talked about diet, and in knowing that there will be help available, is your input into the Johari Foundation purely dietary and in terms of also exercise? Because when you think about nutrition, exercise isn't too far away, because bodies were designed to move. So what is the input there from diet and exercise?
So with Johari Foundation, one of our vision and long-term goal is to really have a center where moms can come and get education, specifically moms with kids with special needs. Now remember, we talked about each child is special and each child is different, and so their metabolism for each one will be very different. So long term, our goal, Sheila, will be to have a center where moms can come, bring their kids, where we can hopefully evaluate what's going on. Hopefully Dr. John will have been able to connect us with other doctors who can be able then to do the biocellular exams to really determine what's lacking in each person's body for it to be able to metabolize as well as everyone else's should. And also the other component of it will be fitness. Yes, as a fitness trainer and as a fitness coach, one of the things that we do work on and really encourage people to do, and especially for people with special needs, is just move their bodies. You know, some of them tend to have low muscle tone. And a lot of that can be worked on by simply small movements. You know, you can have those small physio balls that they can actually work on squeezing. We're really not talking big, lifting weights kind of stuff, but just general movement on a day-to-day basis.
All right. In closing, Dr. what would you like to say to anybody and everybody who's watching? How do we rally for change? What needs to be done?
We need to focus, first of all, on early intervention. And in early intervention, we need to focus on the family as well as on the child. So we need to have enough centers. Right now, if we look at, for instance, autism-specific schools in Kenya, we talk of about 5, of which 3 are public, and then we have 2 that are privately owned. But we have a total of about 97 general schools looking at special needs schools in Kenya right now. But we are looking at 10% of general population as having special needs. So we have over 20,000 primary schools against a total of 97 special schools. Now, where do we expect these children to go? So we need to increase the number of units, special units. I'm not saying we put up special schools, because the society is moving towards social inclusion. So we want educational inclusion. We want all public primary schools to be able to admit children with special needs, and we want the government to come in and employ special needs teachers, employ occupational therapists, and now we also have speech therapists being trained in Kenya. We want those ones to be employed. And then these therapists and working with teachers should also be able to train the parents, so that parents should be able to work with the children at home. And then together we can enlighten the doctors in hospitals, the midwives in the villages to be able to identify these children at birth. And then we develop good early intervention program that will focus on the child and the community at large.
In closing, Jemima, how can we all be a part of the Johari Foundation? What can we do?
First of all, I would wish to call upon everybody that gets to watch or hear about Johari Foundation and our dinner, and moving forward to just come forth and support us financially so that we can be able to see our vision into reality. We have an account number, we have an M-Pesa pay bill number, and so we would wish for people to just come out with donation and support towards this cause. Secondly is that we're calling upon volunteers, the professionals, to just come out, contact us. We'll be able to place them. There are very many volunteers who would want to work with these children. So we'll be able to place them in centers that are in need of professionals to take care of the children.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you for making the time. We're truly, truly grateful. Of course, you can find that number on your screen now, so please send your donation. If you can't write that number fast enough, then this is what you do. You log on to my social media sites and you will find information to link you to the Johari Foundation so you can stand up and help out special children with special needs. Like the panel has said, they need you and they need me. We say goodbye for now, but until next time, live out loud.